This is a case where a gang of 5 hunted and murdered 2 innocent teenagers while on a misguided revenge mission. On January 27, 2024, at 11:13 p.m. in Knowle West, Bristol, 15-year-old Mason Rist and 16-year-old Max Dixon went outside to get pizza, unaware they'd never return. The duo was accosted by a gang of teenagers about a minute later, and within 33 seconds, Mason and Max were fatally stabbed. At the time of their demise, the boys were in Year 11 together at the Oasis Academy John Williams Secondary School, preparing for their high school exams. Meanwhile, Bristol was grappling with a long-running rivalry between 2 neighborhoods, and this would be the trigger event of the boys' premature demise. About an hour earlier, at 10:07 p.m., 3 men armed with machetes threw bricks at the windows of a property in Hartcliffe, hitting a woman and leaving her bleeding from injuries. Shortly after, a male, 45-year-old Anthony Snook, arrived at the house. At around 10:55 p.m., Snook exited the Hartcliffe property alongside 2 teens, aged 16 and 17. The 17-year-old was first, Snook second, and the 16-year-old was last. The trio then entered an Audi Q2 and drove off to find the trio that attacked their home earlier to exert their revenge. Off-camera, Snook picked up 2 more individuals, 18-year-old Riley Tolliver and a 15-year-old teen. The 5-man gang then made its way through Bristol streets, heading to Ilminster Avenue. Meanwhile, Max was walking along Ilminster Avenue unaware that danger was literally too close to home. The Audi Q2 with the gang is actually seen passing from left to right with illuminated brake lights. Shortly after, the car turned around and drove in the opposite direction. Oblivious to the sinister plan brewing in the background, Max arrived at the home of Mason Rist. Almost immediately, the 2 leave to grab a pizza, exiting the property and turning left. Meanwhile, the Audi Q2's headlights can be seen as the car stops. After the Audi Q2 stopped, Snook remained in the vehicle as Tolliver stepped out first, followed by the 15-year-old who had a weapon, then the 17-year-old, and finally the 16-year-old. At this time, Max and Mason were on the pavement, unaware that these were their final moments. Mistaking Max and Mason for the people behind the attack at the Hartcliffe property that left a woman bleeding, the 4 individuals started chasing Max and Mason, who split up. The 15-year-old led the pack, followed by the 17-year-old, and finally the 16-year-old. This camera captures the gang pursuing Mason, seen on the far side of the road. Right behind him is the 15-year-old male, who later stabbed Mason on the pavement opposite the front of his house. Tolliver, then 17, attacked him on the ground with a baseball bat, and as he tried to get up, he was stabbed again by a third attacker, a 17-year-old. Meanwhile, the 16-year-old pursues Max. At this point, Max has already been stabbed once by the 17-year-old, who stabbed Mason as he tried to get up. The camera also shows the 17-year-old moving away after the deed. Mason suffered 2 knife wounds, one measuring over 20 centimeters deep. Both boys suffered instant severe blood loss and died within 10 minutes of each other. The 4 teens then got back into the Audi Q2 and Snook hurriedly drove them away, making their way through Paulet Road. At 11:20 p.m., the Audi Q2 arrived back at the Hartcliffe property. The occupants then got out, the 17-year-old boy first, and then the 16-year-old. Snook remained at the wheel and drove off when the duo exited. Hours later, at around 5:22 a.m. on January 28, 2024, the 16-year-old teen went to a different Hartcliffe address carrying a McDonald's bag. Police launched an investigation, and within an hour, they'd linked the Audi Q2 to the double murder. Still, on January 28, 2024, Snook was taken in, at that time, for one murder.
Mr. Snook, can you just listen to my colleague a minute? Is that okay?
Hello. So the circumstances have now changed, so I'll be placing you under arrest for murder, one count of murder. So you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, okay? So the circumstances are still the same. Your vehicle was linked to where the stabbing has taken place, and subsequently someone has been murdered, all right? Sure. So the necessities are for prompt and effective investigation, protect vulnerable person, protect from further offences, all right?
Okay.
Okay?
We're just going to carry on to custody now,
yeah,
okay?
We'll carry on to custody.
A while later, Snook was informed that his circumstances had just changed again.
All right. Before we get out, you're further arrested for another count of murder, okay? So you don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence, okay? So you're under arrest for 2 counts of murder now. Circumstances being the same, your vehicle was seen leaving the scene of a stabbing, okay? And necessities remain the same, prompt and effective, prevent further harm, prevent further offences. All right? Come on. All right?
On February 1st, 2024, at 6:13 p.m., another suspect, Riley Tolliver, who was carrying a baseball bat that night, was also arrested.
Okay, Riley, listen fella then, alright, so time is 6:13 in the evening. At the moment in time you're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You do not have sentiment harm defence, you do not mention one question, say you later to anything you do say maybe begin evidence. Just listen, alright?
Yes, of course, Captain.
So, just give you some further details, alright?
Yeah.
So, intelligence is received naming you along with others as being responsible for the murders of Max Dixon and Mason Rist on Saturday 27th of January 2024 at around 2300. Alright, and you're already under a caution. Alright, necessity is for a prompt and effective, prevent your disappearance, for searching, and also you need to be interviewed.
3 teenagers were also arrested, but only one was captured on camera. Because of their age, they can't be identified.
The other hand around the back. Okay, at the moment, you're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything, may harm your defence, you don't mention one question, second later on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence.
Alright. So I'm just going to explain to you a bit further what's going on, alright? So you're currently wanted for the murder of Mason Rist and Max Dixon on the 27th of January 2024 in Avon and Somerset Police in Bristol, okay? So you're under arrest suspicion of murder. Information we received that you were involved in an incident on Ilminster Avenue, South Bristol, 27th of January 2024, where 2 teenagers were murdered.
After being taken to the station, Snook was questioned in relation to the double murder of Mason and Max. He then provided an account of what set the tragic series of events in motion. After a 6-week trial, Anthony Snook and the 4 teens were found guilty of jointly murdering 16-year-old Max Dixon and 15-year-old Mason Rist. On November 19, 2024, Snook was sentenced to life in prison. A month later, on December 19, 2024, now 17-year-old Cody Westcott was publicly named as one of the 4 teenagers responsible for the murders of Max Dixon and Mason Rist in January. A judge had previously banned his identity from being revealed, but the order was lifted after the media and the victims' families challenged it. The identities of 2 younger teens involved are still protected due to their age. Cody Westcott, along with 18-year-old Riley Tolliver and 2 unnamed teens, were all sentenced to life in prison for their roles in the killings. Westcott received a minimum sentence of 23 years and 44 days. Tolliver, who attacked Max and Mason with a baseball bat, got 23 years and 47 days. A 15-year-old who admitted to stabbing Mason was sentenced to a minimum of 15 years and 229 days. A 16-year-old involved was sentenced to 18 years and 44 days. During the trial, the court saw CCTV footage of Westcott stabbing Max Dixon with a large zombie knife. He admitted to chasing and stabbing Max, but claimed he didn't intend to kill him. The jury found him guilty of murder. Footage also showed Westcott running back to Mason Rist, who was already injured, and stabbing him again as he tried to stand. The jury found him guilty of Mason's murder too. Cody Westcott's brother, 23-year-old Bailey Westcott, and his friend, 27-year-old Jamie Ogborn, were both jailed for assisting offenders. Bailey burned clothes worn by Cody and another attacker in the garden of a Hartcliffe home. Jamie hid Cody and another attacker at his house. On December 17, 2024, both men were sentenced to 5 years and 3 months in prison for their roles in helping the killers after the crime. The Bristol Crown Court also learned that it was Cody Westcott's family home that was attacked in Hartcliffe by 3 masked teenagers. The injured woman was his mom. The tragic murders of Max Dixon and Mason Rist left deep scars on their families and communities. Max, described by his mother, Leanne Eklund, as a joyful, funny, and caring young man, was her only son and the youngest of 4 siblings. Mason, remembered by his mother Nicola Knight as strong, playful, and full of good humor, had shown remarkable resilience after losing his father at 13. The sentencing of those responsible for their deaths may bring a sense of justice, but the emotional void left by Max and Mason's absence will never be filled. The community came together to honor Max Dixon and Mason Rist with a memorial match at Park Knowle FC, where Max had played since childhood. Flowers, balloons, and blue smoke filled the air, followed by a 2-minute silence with their families present. Bristol City also paid tribute, announcing a fan-led applause from the 15th to 17th minute of their match against Leeds United. For more true crime stories like this, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our future videos.